All is well once again in the land of Hearthstone. We found our players and are ready to jump into our first game of the series. It is going to be a best of three, of course, with this being Specialist Week. It can get a little bit long playing Specialist in best of five, as we saw from, Masters Tour Las Vegas right at the start with Dog taking his championship there. Went on for a little bit of a long while in the finals. But here in best of three, it's a lot quicker, and for our players should be a very, very interesting game. As we were saying before the break, Bankyugi once again trying to take another victory here in the third week after his win in the first week with the Highlander Mage once again, whereas DawN, who has had a pretty miserable start to Grandmasters this season after a pretty miserable end to Grandmasters last season, right on the brink of relegation up until the final day, has maybe got a chance here to turn things around if he can get that miracle run.
Yeah, if he can go runner and just be the champion of this weekend, he could still, at the very last minute, cement himself in Division A, but he's not the only one looking out for that. Both Blitzchung and Alan also need to scrounge together those points. Bankyugi, perhaps, out of the four players today with the least to lose, but still definitely a lot to prove as one of the newest Grandmasters. And I also want to shout out a bit to Karakute for holding the SEA Invitational Team tournament recently, where Bankyugi was playing with Team Thailand. And when I tuned in for a bit, no surprise to see that Highlander Mage was still in their lineup there. He will never drop this deck there.
Yeah, it's often the case, isn't it? Like we saw in global games, where if you have a country where one player in particular is definitely the flag bearer and the most well-known and respected of the players, as I think it's probably fair to say Bankyugi is, within Thailand, their own preferences definitely seem to shine through a little bit more than the rest of the players.
Or it could be that they all bought into the hype. Not
Maybe.
to say that Bankyugi is the only person in the world rocking this deck. Bear in mind, Yarlo was trying to get people onto the train in EU, but Psycho refused him.
Yep, straight up denied. I agree with Bankyugi's mulligan right at the start. You don't really want any of that stuff. As I was saying, with Highlander Mage, for me, the deceptive power of the deck isn't its reactivity, it's its proactivity. It's the fact that you can get onto the board very, very quickly at the start of the game and start doing some, frankly, very broken combos right from turn 4, if you're able to get down the Escape Mana Saber and start cheating out mana.
And because of turn 4 in particular, I also really like that DawN played Temple Berserker instead of the Cult Neophyte, which technically the Neophyte presents more damage on board, but the timing of it going into when Bankyugi wants to coin out a 4-drop, I think will be very, very beneficial for DawN.
That's true, actually, isn't it? Because the only 3-drop is Imprisoned Observer, which you may want to coin out, but then you wouldn't have anything to follow it up with it being the only 3-drop. Whereas, I mean, as I think you were alluding to, Hothead, Escaped Mana Saber, and Twilight Drake all crowding up that 4-cost spot. It's a good recognition. I don't think I would have caught.
Okay, for DawN, he can just go for Dragon's Horde and Cult Neophyte. There is some consideration to playing out Hanar as a bait, but without a secret to follow up, I don't think it's worth it.
Ooh.
Oh, Fireheart.
Fireheart with prep, is that... That's pretty insane, right?
Yes.
That's ludicrous.
Oh my gosh, I'm excited to see how this plays out.
I have never seen that interaction before. Fireheart in Rogue, where most of the spells are like 0 to 2 mana. That's going to be spicy.
That just seemed rather broken. I've not seen the interaction either. But definitely, there's a ton of rogue spells that you want to play in response to something, like this Vendetta.
That's true.
So I'm not sure about how to time the Fireheart even, but the fact that if you're not playing it this turn, it's going to be like Hanar One Thief, it's probably just coming down this turn.
I'm not greedy enough with Hanar in general. I've got to be honest, I was looking at Hanar One Thief on this turn. You have a chance to get a secret anyway, which you could prep out. Whereas now...
Okay, there's a secret.
There is a secret, and I guess you can just use it as a 3/3 that discovered a card, right? Because in this instance, you probably want to hold on to the secret to go with Hanar.
That's what I thought, but he ends up taking Coerce here, which... I mean, that doesn't have a target, first of all, but even if it did, it doesn't double kill something.
Whoa! Now it's
Potion?
spicy time. It is spicy time, Gia. Oh my goodness. You thought 3 mana was good. Let's have 1 mana.
Fireheart with Hanar also possibly getting copied. Sign me up, Derek. Oh my gosh.
Oh my god. An unreactive turn, exactly what DawN needed from his opponent.
How do you even play this? Now he has a secret as well.
So you can just go Potion of Illusion into... It's tough, right? Because I was thinking you go Potion of Illusion into Neophyte to deny the coin, but the problem is that Bankyugi can still go attack Reno, which is, I think, what you're really afraid of on the following turn.
I kind of want to get this Hanar down and just, like, prep Potion. Is that ludicrous? I don't know.
So instead it's...
Okay, by doing it this way...
Right.
I guess
Devolving Missiles! Okay. Whoa!
Oh my goodness.
That's insane!
I don't know if DawN was deliberately leaving mana to play out something from the One Thief.
Right.
Of course, you can't account, or like, it's not reasonable to expect you get exactly that outcome, but leaving mana for Cult Neophyte was also on his mind there.
And so the important thing here with playing out the Neophyte is Reno is unplayable on this turn now. So at the most, he's looking at like, well, Zephyrus probably will mess everything up as well because it doesn't factor in the fact that the spells have been expensified.
Correct.
So there's really very little that can effectively clear off this board.
Well, this Combustion is pretty good on the One Thief.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you go on the Fireheart, then you enrage the Temple Berserker. That doesn't seem very clean. Alternatively, he could just play Jandis, but he's at 16, so...
Right.
That's too scary.
Very scary. Especially as he knows there's another Indestructible Fireheart in hand, which means Eviscerate, Cold Blood, Sinister Strike, all of these cards can start coming through very quick.
Oh my god, imagine if that's the way this ends. I would have started with the Fireheart there 100%, just smelling blood, but maybe that was a little bit too hopeful. DawN, of course, picking up with a guaranteed way to spend his mana with the Hanar train instead.
Oh yeah, Spellbender I can probably get on board with there. I was looking at the Plagiarize, but you're very unlikely to get more than 1 card, I think, a lot of the time against Highlander Mage.
Repentance preloaded also makes a Reno, if it comes down this turn, much easier to deal with. But not to mention, Reno just doesn't do that much in a board with 2 Reborns.
It's literally the same amount of damage on board if it comes down.
What does Bankyugi even do?
So, Zephyrus here, we're looking at... It's an awkward shape for Zephyrus, isn't it? Like,
yeah, I could not tell you.
If you go
maybe
coin
Shadow
first
Madness?
to have 5 mana, Explosive Shot doesn't do it. Yeah, even that's not that good. Which means it could be Jandis Freeze in order to try and push back onto the board proactively.
Right, I like that. Or it could be Doomsayer Freezes, but the Repentance very much messes with that plan.
Yeah, that puts a swift end to any chance of that activating whatsoever. Just about saving a life, really, here for him. Oh my god.
And... okay, so he's just pinging and freezing the most damage. Wanted to get rid of the first half of the Enforcer for the next turn. So Zephyrus has a somewhat easier time of cleaning up. Alright, Fireheart lethal. I'm ready, DawN.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting close. I think I agree with just going with the secrets while you can here, because there are a lot of things that can make this very awkward. If you can get a Mirror Entity or another Repentance, it could be huge. Counterspell is also what I was looking at there, I have to be honest. Because Coin in hand, great. That's like the best thing to counterspell at this point.
Yeah, you can cancel their Power of Creation or Deep Freeze turn, essentially. Or Zephyrus, most importantly.
Whatever it may be.
Well, while I was looking for flashy lethals there, definitely don't blame DawN, as you said, because he's just been in command this entire game.
Yeah. Testing
No
for
reason.
counterspell, but meets Never Surrender instead, which is a bit less impressive. Looking for box here, but does not find it. Rolling Fireball is the best he can do to try and clear up some damage.
And the Never Surrender is absolutely huge for adding so much health onto the board, and DawN is just able to kill Bankyugi on board. But please play the Fireheart! I gotta know
Do it,
what it
do
had
it.
in it.
BM, please! Ah. Wow. I mean,
Come on, somebody get Alan to pilot this deck instead.
oh yeah, he'd be doing this all day long, the BM champ in Alan. But a weird game, I've got to say there for DawN. And even though we were like kind of questioning his plays at the start, having seen it in retrospect, I do actually really like the approach that DawN took there in that game. I think I was very much focusing in on the Instructor Fireheart being a huge value generator over the course of the game. Whereas again, you've got to realize it's a 3/3 body. It can generate you useful spells. The Coerce, I do have questions about. I think I was looking a little bit more heavily at going for the Secret instead to guarantee yourself an activation with Hanar. But it does play into the idea that he's playing around these big 4-health minions, be it Twilight Drake or the Hothead as well.
Yeah, I definitely like DawN's play of the early Fireheart, but I myself had questions on the turn that he didn't go Hanar Potion of Illusion. But looking back on it, a copied Hanar in hand for just 1 mana extra, if you're not playing Secrets that turn, it's not doing very much except giving up tempo. So I really like that DawN instead prioritized playing another Cult Neophyte while still getting the Potion of Illusion down. It's just, of course, a very, very fortunate outcome that he hit the Devolving Missiles. That could have been an entirely different game if the Mana Saber had stuck for Bankyugi.
That's right. It would have been an entirely different story for sure. But now for DawN, he is obviously done with his primary deck here. So he has the opportunity, I would imagine, to switch over to his secondary deck, which I think is primarily made for Priest, but could function fairly well, I think, as well, as a kind of anti-Highlander mage, just higher value build of the deck. Be curious to see if he switches over to that, but before we do get into that, we do have to go to a short break. But when we come back, we're going to see if DawN, after a very bad few months for him in terms of last season and this season, can start the road to recovery here by getting a win over Bankyugi, getting through to that winner's bracket match, and trying to close things out in the semi-finals tomorrow. We'll be right back to see if he You're watching Hearthstone Grandmasters, and it's our second match of the day, halfway through this series, and it was an exciting way to get things going. I think DawN showcasing why this kind of secret, burgle, discover, miracle rogue deck is one of my favorite decks to watch at the hands of our great players at the moment in Hearthstone. Whereas Bankyugi on the other side had, I think the right idea in the matchup, as you would expect from someone who plays Highlander Mage that much, mulliganing for his powerful cards and trying to cheat out as much mana with the mana saber right at the start of the game. Unfortunately, however, it was just too much stuff really happening at the start of the game from DawN. But I think that was an above average expectation of what we can see from the Rogue. So I think Bankyugi has a really good chance of trying to turn things around now.
For sure. Bankyugi's deck, we didn't really see it pop off with the type of ideal curve it gets. When the mage hits Zephyrus early into Wild Growth, I feel that unlocks so much more of the potential of the deck, because if you get down the Reno one turn early, the Power of Creation or Dragon Caster, that one turn can make all the difference and just swing the tempo completely in favor of the mage instead.
One thing I'm a little bit surprised about, though, however, is the fact that DawN, seemingly, according to our sheet here, didn't switch over to his secondary deck, which includes Ambush, Lawkeeper Polkelt, Jandis Barov, and Flick Skyshift, most importantly for me, at the cost of 2 Backstab, 2 Plagiarize. Clearly, this is an anti-priest deck primarily, but I thought, especially given how powerful Flick can be against the mage, being able to take out the water elementals from Deep Freeze, both minions from Power of Creation, as well as just any big threat. I would have leaned towards switching over to his secondary deck there.
Yeah, at first glance, this also surprises me. I would venture a guess that DawN is looking at his position in the matchup as the aggro, where he wouldn't actually want these slightly clunkier cards and focus, I suppose, on an all-in questing or Adwin game plan. But definitely at first glance, I also assumed that this rogue would have more chance in the late game just because it's built with all these value generators to begin with.
Yeah, definitely what I was looking at. I mean, we did feel the lack of backstab, it's got to be said. When we were testing this matchup with the secondary deck against Priest, Not having backstab in the early game is kind of a big deal because all of a sudden it's hard to clear off the Sethic Veil Weavers. Kaj in the early game as well can be a big problem. And it's a similar kind of problem up against the mage. All of a sudden Zephyrus can be a big problem if it comes down at the start. It's harder to clear Doomsayer. It's harder to clear off the early threats like Hothead or whatever else it may be at the start of the game. So if, as you pointed out, DawN is trying to go for an aggressive game plan, I can definitely appreciate that he'd go for this. But I don't know. I feel like this rogue deck, especially given that he's got the double Dragon Sword in there, can lean quite well over to a value game plan where Flick offers you a lot of tempo in order to unlock that value at the same time while taking out the mage threats.
Yeah, it's definitely worth discussing a lot more. I will trust DawN to have tested the matchup more than we did, and it's very possible that he feels that taking it into the late game is more advantageous after all for the mage, which I think is a fair conclusion to come to, because if your power plays by that point are Flick, for example, to deal with the power of creation, it is still a responsive play, and then mage ends up with initiative again, assuming that you spend most of your turn just playing the Flick. And by that time, if they have amazing Reno down or they can get to your box, it might even be more problematic. This is all just conjecture, though, and I'll trust DawN to have stuck to the primary deck for solid reasons.
Yeah, as will I. On the other side, for Bankyugi, I think we can both agree there wasn't really much consideration switching over to either his secondary or tertiary deck. I guess the added value that you get from Khadgar Cairn and Antonidas, while it can again be good against the rogue because you do want to have the ability to actually lock down the game, I think while we're talking about the rogue, whether it wants to be the aggressor or a more slow, controlly value line, the mage, I think, has enough top end no matter what. Like, if you're able to stick Kalagos, Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, both of the big spells in Deep Freeze and Power of Creation should be more than enough to get the win condition rolling. We're just having a little bit of trouble getting the players into game, which is why we are waffling on about the players' deck decisions, but should be very, very shortly that we get them into the game.
But yeah, I'll continue waffling here, Derek.
Please do.
You would not catch me dead playing Cairn Bloodhoof against a rogue deck that has Blackjack Stunners, so I would never look at this as the deck choice for Bankyugi in a million years. However, I do want to shout out that the inclusion of Archmage and Antonidas in here is possibly really brilliant against Priest. I feel that watching EU last night, we were drawing a lot of Subtle and Raven were drawing a lot of comparisons of the list from Yarla of Highlander Mage as it matched up against Cycros Priest compared to our testing, which involved Bankyugi's Mage. And I actually feel that the Antonidas makes a huge difference because it is just a way to go over the top and not get affected by freeze effects that the Priest can get. Just the relevance of Burst in this meta cannot be underestimated whatsoever.
It's very, very true. Even against Priest, which has a lot of healing, they don't seem to have burst healing a lot of the time, especially the Highlander versions, which only run one Apotheosis as the kind of big lifesteal effect. It can definitely feel like burn is the way to go. But for me, kind of stepping out of the actual nitty-gritty of the Hearthstone decks, I want to talk about the places where I think both of these players will be at mentally in this point. Because for Bankyugi, this is all sunshine and roses at this point. He's just qualified to GM. He had a fantastic week one. He's all but guaranteed to be getting through to Division A, especially with another top 8 here. So I imagine he's going to be just pretty plain sailing. He's already guaranteed Division A. He doesn't have anything especially to play for anymore. It's just about proving himself as a newcomer. Whereas DawN, on the other side, I feel like it's been a pretty disastrous run for him over the course of the past few weeks. And DawN in particular, to me, feels like a player who suffers in bad situations. We see, for me, players like, Glory in particular, is a player who seems to play worse when there is a lot on the line to the benefit of him. When he's just about to win, or when he's just about to go through to the finals, that's when I think he starts slipping up because he starts to realize he could actually get there. Whereas DawN, on the other side, I think is a player who struggles with the negative side of Hearthstone, getting his head back in the game after he's not feeling so good.
Yeah, we definitely saw him struggle towards the end of last season, but Definitely coming back with a fresh perspective here. Unfortunately, we are jumping into the middle of the game, but with a big Edwin on board, I think it's pretty easy to piece together what happened in the early game. DawN most likely hit Plagiarize or Secret Passage, given that he has a lot of value still in hand, despite the Edwin being of such a large size.
Yeah, obviously apologies for not being able to get into the game quite so quickly, but I think what is worth saying yet again is that this looks to me like another Potion of Illusion game. DawN has some disgusting plays available to him. Is this another Edwin you just play out on this turn?
That looks pretty strong, especially with the Vendetta able to come down and deal with that Observer. And Bankyugi, I'm willing to guess that this first half of Ray of Frost was expended on that Edwin. Now, so he will have to choose between which ones he wants to freeze. Because of Cult Neophyte, he can't get Deep Freeze down this turn either, which is what he was setting up for with a Mana Saber.
Yeah, I mean, we don't even know if that's Twin Spell or regular Ray of Frost there, unfortunately. But if it's regular, he's just very, very close to dying. If it's Twin Spell, he's got one extra turn to try and buy himself up to Kalagos, which, if it can discover Box, you know, maybe we're in a situation that he can wrestle himself out of this one.
Judging by Bankyugi's hesitation, I do think that it is just half Ray of Frost left. And that means 13-13 Edwin is very likely to connect. We also don't know what secret this is.
Yeah, I mean, we know it's not Mirror Entity, we know it's not Counterspell, we know it's not Spellbender, so we can start to cross some of them off. I mean, I think Vaporize is fairly likely at this point.
It's Flame Ward.
All right.
Thank you very much, production. And DawN now knows it's not Barrier, so he will be thinking between Flame Ward and Vaporize. Vape is obviously very, very threatening here.
And it looks like if he's playing the Neophyte here, he's just not attacking on this turn.
Well, actually, DawN has more information than we do because he'll know if this was from the deck spell or a generated spell.
Right. Okay, yeah.
Seeing as there's no Flame Ward in Bankyugi's primary deck, it was generated, and so it, from DawN's perspective, can still be Vaporizing.
Oh my god, what do you even go for here?
Sure.
Oh my god.
Okay, that was about to be more Potion of Illusions that I've seen in any non-turtle mage game.
Yeah, that was about to be...
Speaking of turtles, though.
Yeah, that's the card that he needs to try and dig himself out of this one. We're looking at Box, we're looking at Blizzard. That's the turn he needed. Okay, now we're looking at Blizzard buying him a turn. Attack with the Mana Saber next turn. Kalagos will be able to discover a spell.
And it's absolutely huge that DawN did not, or rather, he took the bait of thinking that this is Vaporize.
Right.
Bankyugi has more time to work with now.
Yeah, it's a big deal, for sure.
But from DawN, we could just see him play out, I don't know, Kobold Lackey, Potion, play another Lackey. I think it's fine.
It's so disgusting. I mean, I imagine you take the Edwins and then just keep them in hand, because this is more than enough to kill your opponent at the moment.
Yeah, what's scary is that it's not just ramp into Kalagos turn, it's possibly ramp into Amazing Reno turn. So at most, I'd want to see one Edwin committed, but more likely none at all.
Mm-hmm. I can agree with that. And then you really just want to kind of dump cards out of the hand.
So, Faceless Lackey, perhaps?
Yeah.
And Dragon's Horde. Or even just Redagger.
I'd be happy with pretty much any of these lines, to be honest.
Yep. Okay. Holding on to both Edwins, I definitely like. And now, what's in the Kalagos? Or does he take the line where you beg for Kartut Defenders from the Power of Creation Gods?
Well, why not both? Oh, Flame Strike is kind of good, but kind of absolutely nothing at the same time.
It was worth thinking about because DawN was in the headspace that this is vaporized.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
But he will end up testing it one way or another there, and then he'll find out that it's not vaporized and just lose. But now, DawN can 100% get the information that it is not vaporized. Yep. Just playing around Flame Ward first. Good order.
Are there any legendaries that can offer lethal here? Like, there's nothing that gives Wind Fury, right?
Wrong? No backstab, but...
Oh, but Kayn!
Think you...
Oh. Is Kayn just better in case he's able to generate taunts off of Power of Creation?
I'm not sure.
I guess Grom...
I like the idea of Grom and just keep it in your back pocket. Because
Yeah.
this is... Oh! Grom? Next turn? Wait, the Pyro Grom!
What?
Okay, not enough mana.
Yeah.
Honestly, he can just play his cards. It's fine.
No, this was actually very, very smart by DawN here. Being able to get himself Grom into Arcane Breath next turn means he set his opponent to 10. He's got the extra burst damage. Right. It was correct.
Yeah. Even if something goes extremely wrong with the super resilient board he set up.
What if something goes wrong like exactly this? Couldn't he have gone Flame Strike, trade, Alex Straza, and then cleared the board?
That was what I was looking at.
He just played this. I mean, I guess he would rather have this than Alex Straza is the thinking, which, okay, that's fair. That's fair. He can still play the Flame Strike.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, you will not know about the burst in hand, obviously. And it sucks to trade Caligos in, but...
yeah.
I don't know whether DawN has played Blackjack Stunners in the early turns.
I mean,
that will definitely factor into Bankyugi's decision.
You just do it.
I mean, if you've seen Stunners, it's not unreasonable to think that a Safeguard could soak up a hit from one of the giant Van Cleaves.
I don't even want to play with fire. Like, one of them had Taunt as well. You got to get through it one way or another.
In any case, the Stunner was picked up for DawN. We can start picking apart this board and committing both Edwins, I think, is reasonable because he can still have this Grom for the next turn, even if they get Renoed.
Ooh, that's another one. Step back to the hand.
Don't let the door hit you.
And what we're really
is insane.
Yeah,
Even has the secret passage if somehow Bankyugi manages to get a box together.
What do you even go for there? It's all insane. Another Fireheart.
Okay, you can definitely hold on to that for value in this situation, I think.
Yeah.
Just some Edwins and Redagger.
I'm happy with just one again. Like you have the lethal almost guaranteed next turn, right? With
Okay. It's just Reno that's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if the play was Amazing Reno, then he could just go... I mean, the Grom is not lethal because of the armor, but Grom Arcane Breath Edwin as a follow-up is very, very powerful.
Okay.
Yeah, even if Bankyugi hit the freeze there, he would be dead to the Grom.
Yeah. And even now, missiles, even if it clears up everything except the Edwin, which it absolutely did not do there, it's still just going to be lights out for Bankyugi here.
Indeed. Man, I would have loved to see the early half of this game, but some things are not in our control, unfortunately. One thing I do know is that this end is very, very stylish compared to what DawN could have gone for last game.
Very true. 2 Firehearts in 2 games, not a bad way to get things rolling as DawN with the Rogue. A great way, as I was saying, for him to start his road to redemption. DawN is a player who I think, while he has had some of the bigger blunders, you know, there's no point in hiding it here in Grandmasters, has so much to offer. If he gets his headspace correct, gets into grinding the game, and make sure he knows all the matchups inside and out, we can see games like that where it just looks so easy, so clean at all points along the way. That is what I expect from DawN, and that is what he has delivered in this game. And going up in his next match of the day up against Blitzchung, that is definitely going to be tested against a very different style of mage altogether.
Yes, it will be a lot faster than we're used to seeing. And I'm really excited for this matchup because I don't believe we tested it very, very heavily, as these are two archetypes that have been present in GM for many weeks now, brought by many players. But I think now that we're quite a few weeks into Scholomance Academy, players are much more knowledgeable about what they should be keeping in the mulligan, about how they play the matchups. And now the lists are getting more refined as well, even more so because it's specialist.
I think so too. It should be a great final day today and tomorrow where we crown our champion for week 3. But obviously DawN did just take a win then. He's going to be playing in our next game against Blitzchung. So we've got to let him get a little bit of a rest, get a drink of water, whatever he needs in order to prepare himself for his next grueling match, because the winner of that will be going straight to the semi-finals on Sunday. So when we return, we're going to have our third match of the day, the winner's bracket match, to decide who is going, as I said, to that semi-final between Blitzchung and DawN. We'll be back up.